Hello, 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 and welcome to the Altwork podcast, where we explore the new frontiers of work and challenge everything you thought you knew about your career, business, and the world of work. I am Victoria Relas, and with me is my co-host, Sakib Rasul. Hi, Sakib. And today we're going to talk about Kill Being Nice, embracing your power and transforming relationships. So Kill Being Nice is actually originally an article that Sakib and I co-wrote. And since then, we have used it numerous times in our programs. And I think it's one of our most popular articles. And I think that's because it's a concept that can be very helpful, but initially very perturbing and very provocative. So we thought we'd hop on here and do an episode on this so we can dive deeper and talk about it more. Sakib, anything you'd like to add or say?
Sure. Thank you, Victoria. We thought very carefully about whether to do this topic or not and how we might do it. And I think I would like to start off by saying that by Kill Being Nice, we do not invite you to start being rude. Kill Being Nice is fundamentally an invitation to not tolerate nonsense, to not tolerate bullshit. Also, Kill Being Nice is not an invitation to have a vendetta or invitation to have, vengeance. Kill Being Nice is an invitation to owning your own power. And yes, if you have had a strategy of being nice in place and you begin to shift your stance to being direct, it can have consequences in certain cases. So you need to do it in a way that you're responsible for your well-being, but at the same time, do not accept a violation or indignity as a must-have in life.
Well said. Yep, exactly. Thank you. And one of the reasons I think this topic is so provocative is because to be nice is actually something that is promoted and taught to us since we are very young. And I mean, I heard from my parents, and we hear many times from my parents, I think all the time, to be nice and to be nice and to be nice. And so I guess my starting question is, why are we taught to be nice? And what does being nice really mean? Or what do we mean by being nice?
Why don't you say a little bit about that? How do we've been talking about this topic for quite some time. And how does that occur to you, Victoria? I'm curious.
Well, I think what we mean by someone being nice is someone that stays in the status quo, someone that does not disrupt the general thought or the general idea and kind of keeps order and peace and helps everyone be somewhat feel the same and comfortable. And not call out bullshit when it needs to be called out. That's what I think being nice means.
No, I think you're right on. Being nice means to give up some dignity, to suffer some injustice, to suffer silently and continue to have a smiling face. Being nice is to sometimes is not to own up to the nonsense that's going on. Maybe you are doing the nonsense, maybe other people are doing the nonsense. Being nice is to keep a good front. Yeah. Good front and resentment in the back, party in the back. And that way of being, that inauthentic way of being is what we're saying, what we're asking people to let go.
Yeah, but then why are we taught to be nice growing up? I mean, it can't all be that bad. I mean, we're saying it like being nice is so it has to do with indignity, and people don't want to experience indignity, but still we are taught to be nice. So why are we taught to be nice?
That's a really good question, Victoria. It turns out not all families teach their children to be nice. Most do. And it has to do a little bit with class as well. And human being, let's look at the history of it. Human being is a historical animal. We live inside this narrative that the arc of history shapes for us. The last couple of 100 years, we have had this industrial style management in which the job was to act in a standard way, and the human nature should be fitted into this boxed categories, into these standard categories. So, and maybe if your job was to execute some prefigured list of tasks and prefigured out set of procedures and everything, then maybe an external behavior, no matter whatever the heck is going on in your mind, in your heart, and you're being resentful, doesn't matter as long as the assembly line keep running, it was fine. Maybe there was some indignity that you suffered, or certain group of people suffered, or certain gender or certain sect or something of people suffered. It was fine because the factory is running. Now, what's going on in this era? That the style of work is changing. The style of work is a lot more dynamic than it ever was in the past. The current style of work has many new perturbances, many new breakdowns, instabilities, upsets that show up. So today, we need to find a new way of being that allow us to deal with this kind of dynamic nature of work. If we continue to be nice while having resentment in the background, that would not work today. To work effectively today, people are going to need to think together about important challenges, important breakdowns, important roadblocks, and sometimes we need to alert each other. If we are stuck in some bias or something, or stuck in some wasting behavior, wasting habit, we need to get each other's attention. And we need to give each other permission to get each other's attention. So we need to develop a new way of being. We called it being straight, but that is not to be confused with a romantic orientation. So we can call it being direct. Being direct. Now, being direct does not mean being rude, right? You can be kind and being direct. As a matter of fact, being direct comes from some care for each other. And so we bless our teachers and parents that taught us that be nice, have a smiling face, because they were taught the same thing, because they had the jobs in this industrialized society where all you needed to do was go 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to your job, keep a nice front, do your tasks, come home, and whatever resentments and whatever horrible moods you had going on, and if you have some injustice happening, take it out in your private life or do something to deal with it. That whole way of being is now leaving us.
Before you move on too quickly, because you just said so much, so let's like pause for a second.
Okay.
In you sharing, a new thing came into my mind, which we talk a little bit more on the article about being nice taken as a personality trait. And I'm thinking, like, growing up, we're always taught to, be nice. And I'm thinking that I think parents do that just to instill manners and for kids to grow up, being courteous and patient, right? To be nice. But I think what happens is maybe that we take that as a defining characteristic of us, that, oh, we are nice. And we take it as like a personality trait. And then we go on in our lives, grow up, go to school, go to work, and continue being nice. And then that's when the problem arises, that when indignity does happen, we sometimes don't have the skill to say, okay, being nice is not what I should be in this situation, or this is not helping me anymore, right? Yeah. And like we said in the article, instead of seeing being nice as a personality trait, we suggest to see it as a mood. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And, being nice, we sometimes assume to say, hey, some people are naturally very nice, or being nice is it's not really a personality trait. What you call personality is just an accumulation of some habits, some assessments that you made when you were young about your way of being, that, hey, maybe if you smiled at your parents, or smiled at something, you got candy or something, so the behavior got reinforced. and you made up the idea that if I am nice, I will get things. Now, like you went in that direction, that is not to be confused with being courteous, being kind, having good manners, treat each other with respect. That is great. Being nice just became that no matter what you're suffering with, no matter what is being done to you, as a defining strategy, as a overarching strategy for getting things done, you should just be nice. And that is what doesn't work.
That costs us a lot.
It cost us a lot. So let me ask you a question. Let me turn the tables around a little bit and ask you a question. When we were choosing this topic for today's podcast, we had a couple of other ideas, and you insisted that we should go after this topic. What is it that inspired you to go after this topic? And say a little bit, where you've been studying at Concevion, you've been working at Concevion for some years, where you have killed being nice, and it has brought some benefit to you. And where do you still see to be a big problem in your generation, in millennials, in Gen Z, and whatever it's called right now, younger people? Where do you see that being relevant today that inspired you to insist that we go on this topic?
Okay, that's a lot of questions, but I'll start with the first one. What inspired me to choose this topic is that I see it as something that touched a lot of our participants, and also something that like when we even wrote this article, I think it was like I was dealing with this issue. This is something that is like very personal to me, because growing up, I have always been taught to be nice. And there were a couple of instances that you helped me see where that was not helpful. But I remember the first time you said this to me, I think you actually said something else, that nice people sync up the world. I remember being very provoked, even as a younger kid. I was like, okay, like even back then I knew like, I don't understand, like this doesn't feel right, But I think as I grew older, I kind of understood more the power of the power that comes from kill being nice, and instead standing for something else, not being nice and not feeling good, but standing for like a care. If something is going on and it's wrong, don't put up with it. Don't put up with bullshit. Call it out. And it takes courage, but it's so important. So that's why I was moved to talk about this topic this time. And the way I see it working in my generation, I think my generation does a pretty good job of killing being nice. When it comes to a lot of things that we've like, I don't know, when it comes to like, for example, genders, I think women have been taught more to be nice and men have been taught to. And I think we have done a good job of kind of changing that a little bit. But that's all I see for my generation as a total.
How do you thank you, that makes sense. Can you think of a particular place or particular domain or dimension of your work or personal life where kill being nice really worked for you, and you saw the benefit of being direct versus being nice?
Like a specific situation?
I'm just curious. It's our group of situations or an area of your life or a particular place where you have seen
Sure.
being direct works much better for you.
Well, this is a bit off topic of work though. But I think there was a very defining situation where I when I was going to school and I was taking the bus, sometimes weird people would come and talk to me and ask me very personal questions. And I would answer them because I didn't know what else to say, and I just wanted to be nice and not be mean.
You were being nice.
Yeah, and just like be courteous, right? But there was something in me that felt kind of uncomfortable. And then I realized that there is no reason for me to be nice to them. Like I don't owe them anything. I don't have to be nice to them. If I have a gut feeling or intuition that I should not be sharing this information with this person and I just don't feel comfortable doing it, then I just shouldn't do it. So that's a bit off work related, but that was one specific situation that I think stuck with me for a long time.
No, I think it's quite right on, because in this particular case, giving up being nice and being direct kind of became your protection. And a lot of times women are taught, not only women, but sometimes certain cultures or certain races are taught that you should be nice. And what happened, that becomes the exploitative mechanism for others. That people feel that if they are being direct, or they're saying no, I will not tolerate this bullshit, then it becomes sort of like they're bad people, and good people are always nice. So that fundamental strategy ends up working against you. So that's really good. I have another question though, something you said earlier in your earlier response. You said that my generation is getting really good at killing being nice. Do you feel, I really don't know, I'm asking like honestly and genuinely, I don't have like a presupposition here, but do you feel that that they might be getting more into being rude? And how do you define what is the distinction between being rude and being nice? And if you are to say a message to your generation about the distinction of being rude, that when giving up being nice goes into being rude, how does that work? And do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's actually a very important part of this whole topic, like the fine line between killing being nice, but also not being rude, right? And the reason I said actually that I think my generation is doing a good job is because I see it at work with, I think sometimes at work there is hierarchy, right? There's older generations, there's usually your boss is older than you, so on and so forth. And I think that I see it like in myself, in our work, and I also see it within my friends and their own work environments, that we're no longer like just giving respect just because someone is older than us or has like we're no longer just putting up with bullshit just because of like hierarchy or old traditions that don't really matter anymore. So that's what I said. That's why I said that I think my generation with work is kind of doing a good job of calling out bullshit when needs to be called out and not being nice. But the distinction between being nice, killing being nice, and being rude, I think what is important is for the sake of what, like for the sake of what in that conversation, like what are you standing for in that conversation? Like don't stand for being nice, but also don't be rude. Like if there is something going on, what's at stake? What's the matter? What's the care for? What are you standing for? Are you standing for, a person that is doing very good work and should not be fired? So you're standing up for that person. Your care is in that person. It's not just to be rude. You actually care for something. So I think care is an important factor in this conversation. But what do you think? I would like to hear.
Yeah, it's really, really good, being rude and being nice. I think that both of those ways of being live in the same neighborhood. They live on the same side of hill.
Being nice and being rude?
Being nice and being rude. Because if you take a look at it, what's underneath both of those is the mood of resentment. One is a little bit different. Outward mannerism is keep the resentment in heart and just keep on smiling, but not all the time though. You notice that often people that are pretending to be nice or acting nice can suddenly become very rude. They go nice, 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 boom.
Or it's very obvious that they're trying to be nice.
Yeah, the teeth get really crunchy and the jaws get really, and sometimes there's an explosion. You
Yeah.
continue to be nice, you continue to suffer something, or you continue to have the assessment that I'm being violated, whether you're violated or not violated. Maybe you're perceiving something as a violation and you continue to be nice and you suddenly explode in a moment. So I think that the mood of resentment is kind of what's underlying both of these ways of being. Whether you blow up or don't blow up, or suffer silently, or continue to give up your dignity. And if you do blow up, you still continue to be suffering indignity. If you lose your temper and blow up in a conversation, that costs you your power. You are taken less seriously by others when you have this kind of way of being.
Yeah.
So the opposite side, or the other neighborhood, or the other side of the hill, I think that being direct, being kind, and being caring, they are related to each other. If you develop a way of being direct, maybe if somebody said something to you and you say, excuse me, what'd you say that? What do you mean by that? Maybe indignity wasn't meant, or maybe insult wasn't meant, but you clarify it. Or maybe if some insult is meant, or if there is some kind of indignity or some kind of a nonsense going around, by being direct, you bring it up. By being direct, you open the space in which now that can be dealt with. And when you're being direct, the mood of care, mutual care for yourself, care for your dignity, care for other people's dignity, and care for the matter at hand. You know, if you're at work, then the matter at hand is the customer that you must satisfy, or the product you must build, or service you must do, whatever you're doing. If you're in a family situation, then care for the household, care for the family. Out of that care, you can have some courage to bring it up. And out of kindness to the other person, if someone else has an obnoxious behavior that they're saying, you can have kindness towards that. And out of your kindness, you can be direct. You can perturb the game. You can disturb the game. How does that sound?
I like everything you're saying, and things are coming to mind that being direct is risky, no? Like if someone has been being nice for a good part of their life and is accustomed to being nice at work, it can be very difficult to give up being nice, no? So how do you suggest someone go about that?
Go about
Like
which way? Say again your question.
Giving up being nice and becoming more direct.
I think the precondition is that you must get in touch with what's at stake.
Yeah, I agree.
There is a way of being that you give up, because if you try to only change the outwardly behavior, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You'll end up being weird. Sometimes you're trying to be rude, sometimes you're being nice. So there is a way of being that you need to give up. And that way of being is that I will tolerate bullshit.
Yeah.
I will tolerate my own bullshit. I will tolerate other people's bullshit. This is what you need to give up.
Yeah.
So when you give that up, and why you should give that up, because what's at stake? Look what's at stake. What's at stake?
I was going to ask you, what's the risk of not giving this up?
The risk of not giving this up is that it can cost you your dignity. It can cost you your time. It can cost you your potential. You may lose opportunity. We have short amount of time available to us in this life, on this planet, in which we must make the most of life. Ungar says, life is the greatest good. So the time that we have available, we must make the most of this time that's available to us. Time that is spent in being nice and suffering silently is time wasted. So first, you must bring care for your own dignity, your own potential, your own time, your own capital, and then care for what's going on in the environment. Maybe someone else is getting violated or abused or insulted, and someone else's right is being damaged. So out of care for that, out of love for others, you must give up being nice and begin to build some courage to be direct. And once
Yeah.
again, we're not asking you to start being rude, but being
Yeah.
direct is start to speak that you wouldn't speak otherwise.
Yeah.
Start to speak that you're scared to speak. Start to speak that you think that others will lose it or I will lose it. Start being direct out of kindness, out of care and out of love for what's happening in the environment. You can begin to build a way of being and begin to invite people to investigate and ponder about what's going on.
I like that. I think what you said here was totally key. Start being kind, start being direct out of kindness. I think that's very key. Okay, but relating to work, a friend of ours recently approached us who was struggling with this concept because she told us that in her industry, I think it was a marketing industry, is littered with rudeness and people screaming at each other. So being nice is now being promoted as a solution to all that nastiness, right? And that's why she was kind of going back and forth with us of, why kill being nice when everyone else is being so rude and nasty with each other? That seems like what I should do, right? So how would you react to that?
Yeah, good question. I think it makes sense that if any kind of courtesy or manners or any kind of care for each other from some space is gone, and there is no listening and everybody's shouting, the first step might be to stop that. But that is not to bring nice back. We need a better language to bring something else back. We need to bring care back. We need to bring concern back. We need to wake up to each other's care. And you don't wake up to care by just being nice. Being nice is a hiding mood. It won't work in that industry to achieve the goals that the caretakers and bosses of that industry really want to achieve. If people are not direct with each other and do not build practices for speaking and listening to each other in the mood of trust and care, they will simply build resentment about each other. That will create enormous wastes.
Yeah. Resentment is it's something that destroys relationships and destroys work, and it's a genuine waste of so much possibility. And accompanies mostly the mood of being nice. Yeah. But if someone is being rude, let's say at work, you have a coworker that is just nasty most of the time, do you think like why not try being nice to them and see if that works?
Does it work? We need to
Maybe
investigate. Sometimes does it work? Sometimes you're comfortable. Maybe sometimes you avoid feeling uncomfortable. I got that for sure. But does being nice work? If somebody's being rude and being obnoxious all the time and you respond by being nice, you may avoid dealing with the situation temporarily, but it doesn't help them and it doesn't help you. If they are hurting you in this case, then they will hurt other people in other cases. It doesn't really end. There is no working relationship. There is no trusted relationship between you two or you three or however many people are in the environment. Everybody is then worrying about defending themselves. Everybody's worried about not triggering that person. Everybody's worried about holding their breath, or as they say, walking on eggshells. Walking on eggshells around. That is not a way of being that is conducive to innovation, that can produce remarkable results. You do not accomplish the impossible if you are dealing with a rude person in your work and you're walking on eggshells. You can have a pretentious relationship. You can have a superficial relationship, but you cannot have an authentic relationship. What you want to avoid doing, and it took me a long time to learn this lesson myself, that often people are being rude. There is at least for me, that's not for everyone, growing up how I grew up, there is a tendency that I should respond with equal rudeness.
Yeah.
And maybe if I respond with equal rudeness, maybe the person will really wake up, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It's, what is that says, if everybody takes eye for an eye, soon enough, everybody will be blind in the city.
Yeah.
So that way of strategy doesn't work. But out of kindness, you can be direct. You can say, look, this way of being doesn't work. This way of being produces a mess. You can even own it. You can say, this way of being, it has an impact on me. Do you care about the impact? Remind the person of the shared care. Remind the person of the mutual care. In a family situation, you can remind the person of a shared love that all family members intrinsically share for each other, have for each other. Maybe that has been forgotten. At work, maybe the shared care is for the customers, for the people that you are building the product for or delivering a service to, and so on and so forth. So that out of that shared care, you want to get their attention. You want to take some level of risk. Now, there is always a risk that once you start to change your way of being, if you have been nice in response to rudeness and you begin to shift that, it can upset things. If suppose your boss's boss, your skip level, has been super rude and obnoxious and abusive, and you have been, the way to deal with that is that you're just being nice. I remember one time at Microsoft, my skip level, he was so rude to everybody. Any other group, he was a group leader of this team, the whole department, general manager of the whole department. And anytime other general managers came trying to collaborate, respond with rudeness. Other people did not accept his rudeness. They went away. Another group tried to collaborate with this group and they were responded with rudeness. They went away. Internally, everybody was just scared to bring the issues up. Everyone just being nice. Everywhere he went around, the people said, oh, let's give it some standard name, Joe. Joe was not the name, to change the name. Say, hey, Joe, how are you doing? And Joe would respond with rudeness and say, hey, did you do this? And you're so dumb and so stupid. And that just went on and on and on. Few years later, I, of course, left the department and did something else. The product did not survive. It could not compete in the marketplace. Innovation was killed, and better products, better competitors showed up in the marketplace and killed the product. I would say hundreds of millions of dollars were wasted. And that's really what provoked me. If I were to go back in the past, if I were to invent a time machine and go back in the past, I would probably say something. I would say, hey, Joe, what is with that way of being? I don't think it works. I think that you scare people. I think that you do damage to yourself. And eventually that person also had to leave Microsoft. That person eventually, it cost that person their own career, and it didn't really work out. But since I cannot go back in the past, now wherever I see obnoxious behavior going on, I take a risk. Sometimes I do lose. Sometimes I lost a customer because that customer says, listen, why are you pointing at my personality? I have hired you to just do that job. So just, F off and just do this job. And I said, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. First of all, the level of job you want us to do, we won't be able to do in an environment like this. You cannot squeeze the best work out of people out of fear. You can make some minimal bars out of fear, but you cannot squeeze innovation out of people. For that, the environment has to be where you feel that you can be your best self. When people are being rude, the bosses are being rude, my message to them that there is no way people around you are going to be their best selves. People around you are going to be suppressed. They're going to be looking for opportunity to leave. They're going to talk bad behind your back. And then another kind of a nasty mood settles in of gossip. Gossip gets in the way. People gossip all the time. You can't be like direct to that person. So let's talk behind that person's back. And I can tell you, gossip can kill any culture, any project at any time. So it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Something came to mind when you were talking, and it is that, and this is why we debated having this podcast and discussed it so much, that kill being nice, we are talking to a specific person, a person who we think should not put up with bullshit and should not go through indignity, right? We're talking to that person. We are not talking to the person who is rude and nasty, because they don't have to kill being nice, they have to do something else. So for the people who are nasty and rude, how does this relate to them, or does it not relate to them? And is it just a different topic that we will have at some point?
It's a good question. I think maybe, like you said, maybe let's do a podcast called Kill Being Rude.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's do a podcast called Kill Being Rude. But the foundation is the same.
It is?
What that person who is being rude has perhaps lost some relationship with the care, what they really care about. Maybe they got violated in their background somewhere. Maybe they believe that others are violating them, and being rude is the only way they're going to recover some dignity. And it sounds like a logical thing to do. It sounds like very logical that if I have been insulted, I've been violated, people will suppress me, people will run all over me if I'm not rude. And maybe by being rude, they initially get some results. Maybe they scare people, and maybe people begin to be a little careful and not violate them. But you become, it's a lonely road. You become very lonely. You become isolated. You suffer silently anyways. The same person who is being nice, who suffers silently, the person who is being rude also suffers silently. Unless you're apathetic, which is a deep psychological, spiritual kind of a disease. But most people are not apathetic. Most people are just resigned. And my friend Chauncey says that people that are resigned, they actually care about something deeply. That's why they're resigned, because they care about something. Maybe they cared about something and they gave up on it because they couldn't see how they can make a difference. Maybe they cared about kindness and they couldn't see that how kindness could work in some environment. So they gave up on that and they became resigned at being kind, and they adopted a new strategy, which is being rude, which got them initially some results. So, but I like the topic, and I think let's go after that.
Yeah, I like it too.
In the next podcast.
I like it too. And I like it at the core of it, it's the same, which is bringing care and reminding each other about what it is we care about. And not falling to resignation.
Not falling to resignation, right? Because the person who's being nice as a strategy is also resigned that there is no other possibility. The only thing I can do is being nice. So the new possibility could be is being loving, being caring, being direct. And what that can open up as a possibility, you cannot see ahead of time. This is not the kind of game where the results could be promised to you ahead of time. Maybe you risk your job, or maybe you risk your client, or maybe you risk your position a little bit. But that risk is worth it. Because at the end of the day, what you want is you want to live a life that is unleashed, that is unhinged. You don't want to live in a box where you're just trapped in and you can't feel your wings, and you want to be this big eagle that flies free. So maybe let's, unless you have more questions, maybe we begin to close and say that for the sake of flying like a big eagle freely, and truly being yourself, and see what's your possibility, see what's your potential, see where you might go in your job, in your career, that you want to begin to being direct.
Yeah.
If not for yourself, for the care of others in the system, you want to
Yeah.
give up being nice, because who knows, others might really want to hear you. Victoria, the days when you started working with me and you had this whole thing going on being nice, I could have never perceived working with you, doing podcasts with you, writing philosophy together with you, if you continue to be nice. In some moment, you stopped being nice and you started being direct with me, and sometimes about my own bullshit. And I liked it so much. And I said,
And
wow.
that's when authentic conversations between you and me started happening. And then beautiful philosophy comes out of that, because we struggle with each other and we fight with each other and we say, no, but why is that? I don't understand, Yeah.
Right on.
I love this invitation. I absolutely love this invitation. And I think, you said something really good, that if you're watching this and think about a place where you have adopted being nice as a strategy and where it's no longer working, and think about giving it up, and instead being direct out of kindness, but being direct. And then come and share with us what happens.
About the last thing, about the care for the future, about the care for the shared future. That's one thing human beings do. We are almost always engaged in the business of inventing futures together. Anytime we're working together, we're inventing some kind of a future. Human being is the kind of animal that operates out of its care for the shared future with each other. So for the sake of the shared future that you have with your teammates, with your company, with your investors, with your family, we invite you to kill being nice and start being direct.
Yes. Okay. And with that being said, I think that's it for today. So thank you, Sakib. With this, we conclude episode 7 of the All Work podcast, Kill Being Nice, Embracing Your Power and Transforming Relationships. Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise. I had fun in this conversation. And if you like what we had to say and want to interact with us more, make sure to join us in All Work Connect this Friday on June 2nd at 10 a.m. from 12 p.m. Pacific time, where if you're dealing with this or any other career-related concerns, you can come and ask and get free life coaching. I'll put the link in the comment section below. And don't forget to tune in next time for more alt work conversations. I am Victoria Reles, and this has been the All Work podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.